sung that song before. I liked it. We need to sing that and some more. Yeah, we need to learn some new songs, don't we? I've been asked to announce that Terry's daughter, Carol, had a stepdaughter. And what was her name? Kim. Kim passed away this afternoon, and they found her. We don't know any more than that right there. So we want to keep Carol and the family in your prayers. Marie, I asked how Marie was doing, and she's doing better, and maybe she's watching. I hope she is. And Eddie is still struggling a little bit, so let's keep Eddie on our prayer list. I think I passed out the PowerPoint from last week so that you have the PowerPoint. Nancy told me, she said, about the time that I was writing notes from last week and got to the passage that you were saying, you was already on another passage. Well, that's because I thought the PowerPoint was working behind me, but I've already checked it, and it is working. It is working tonight, so anyway, I should be able to, you should be able to write notes and everything. And if you want a copy of this PowerPoint, I can give you that one as well. As we're continuing our study on angels, and what we're going to look at tonight is there are some things that may be hard to understand totally, but God has given what we need to know, and men needs not to add to it by filling and adding in an old wise tale. Okay? I think that you know what the definition of old wise tale is. Basically, it's beliefs that is not based on facts, but it's based on fiction. Now there are some old wise tales that I'm going to put up here on the screen. And some of these I've heard, my mother, my daddy has told me, and you know, maybe you grew up with it, maybe your parents told you. One of them was frogs will give you warts. So if you pick up a frog, you'll get a wart. That's false. You do not get warts by picking up frogs. And I didn't say the rest of it. I mean, the frog's got to do something to you in order for it to happen, and I just didn't want to say that. Here's another one. Keeping a raw, unpeeled onion out in the kitchen will keep the family safe from illnesses like the flu. Man, I wish that was true. That would help me a lot. The full moon causes people to act crazy. That is another old wise tale. It's false. It's totally false. Now, sometimes when we believe something like this, it will happen. Now, what are you saying, Marcia? No, that's not true. There's no scientific fact behind it.
With autistic kids.
It may have a little bit to do with some things, but it is not true by scientific facts, okay? Now, here's some other ones. Are these fact or fiction? Now, this is one that I remember my parents telling me. Do not swim after eating for 30 minutes. You're supposed to wait for 30 minutes, because if you do, you're going to drown. You'll sink. False. It is false. If you swallow chewing gum, it will remain in your body for 7 years. That is false. Now, it is true the body cannot digest chewing gum, but it doesn't get stuck in the body. Your body will pass it out. If you get stung by a jellyfish, human urine heals the jellyfish sting. that too is false. I don't know how many times I've heard that. A hot shower is the only thing that will help heal a jellyfish sting, but you got to pull the stinger out, and you need to take a hot shower for 20 to 45 minutes. My dad used to tell me this when I wanted to drink coffee. Coffee stunts your growth. Yes, how many of you heard that one before? Oh, almost everybody. Here's one that my mother used to tell me all the time. Plucking gray hairs means that two will grow in its place. My wife even said that a couple of times. That's false. There's no scientific fact to it. Sitting too close to the TV will ruin your eyes. I can't tell you how many times my mom and dad had told me that. Scoot back, you're going to ruin your eyes. That is false. It will cause eye strain by sitting too close, but it's not going to ruin your eyes. I'm not wearing glasses tonight because I sit too close to the TV. Shaving your hair, or mustache, or beard, or whatever, makes it grow back thicker. False. False. Plucking hairs and shaving hair has no impact on the thickness of hair growing back. Scientific fact. Follow the science. How many times have we heard that? These are old wives' tales, folks. I'm telling you. How many of you cracked your knuckles? How many times have you heard you're going to get arthritis in the joints? Crackling knuckles causes arthritis. Man, Mom and Daddy used to tell me, don't do that, you're going to get arthritis. Well, this cracking sound that you hear when you crack your knuckles is nothing but nitrogen bubbles that's in the fluid that lubes the joints, and that's what you're hearing. Oh, Charlie, here's one that your mother may have got you with. I know mine did. Eating carrots give you better eyesight. Have you heard that? Eating carrots give you better eyesight. That's an old wives' tale. Here's one. Being cold will give you a cold. If you go out into the yard and you get cold, you'll catch a cold. Only thing that causes the flu or causes the common cold is a virus or bacteria. Being in the cold doesn't do it. So, Corey, you don't have an excuse. And I know we've all said this. You've had a piece of meat, you had a French fry, or you had something that you were trying to put in your mouth and you missed it, and you said, oh, the 5-second rule. You got 5 seconds to pick it up and eat it before it gets nasty. Well, that's false, because bacteria transfers to food dropped on the floor immediately. So these are all old wives' tales, and I know that some people think the full moon does this, and yet the moon that has nothing to do with the action. It's just something that a lot of folks see, and it causes them to do it. But it's not the full moon that's doing it. So I know what you're saying, Marcia. I know what you're saying. Now I know that some of these are funny. And I had to live with a whole lot of these. And you may have known some more old wives' tales. However, there are some old wives' tales that people have put on biblical things. And one of those things is the subject of angels. Now, we are warned about believing such things. In 1 Timothy chapter 4, in verse 7, Paul, writing to Timothy, said, reject profane and old wise fables, and exercise yourself toward godliness. In other words, don't believe these fables. Don't believe these things that you're being told. Believe the things that God is telling you. God's word will overstep anything that man believes. Now tonight is part 2 of our study on angels. And we're going to look at the fables and false theories that people have had on the subject of angels. We are not going to get to the topic of guardian angels tonight. I have it planned to be talking about guardian angels next Sunday evening. So, if you have a question about angels, if you write it down, give it to me, I will do my best to answer the question. I had one tonight, and it's going to be answered tonight. Let me get that note. I don't want to forget it. If I have it up here, I will probably be able to see it. Marilyn, if for some reason I forget it, wave your arm around. All right, the first fable or false theory that we have on angels that some people believe. Not everybody believes this, but these are the more popular beliefs. It is impossible to know anything about angels. And that may be the very reason why there's so few, and I'm not going to say books, but scriptural references or books that are written scripturally about the subject of angels. And that's because the subject is hard, but it's not impossible. God has given us everything that we need to know about any subject. Now, some subjects we just have to take with what He's given us and go with it with that. But the key word is to know anything. Last week, as we began the introduction, we talked about a lot of things about angels. We learned everything that we did learn was all from the Bible. And we understand that through the Bible gives us and offers us information that we need. Look at 1 Peter chapter 1 and verse 3, because there Peter is writing to the church and he said, God gives us all that pertains to two different things, life and godliness. So how we are to live our life, God has given it to us, and how, as far as godliness, living a godly life, God has given us. So He's given us everything that we need to know. And if we look at 2 Timothy chapter 3, verses 16 and 17, we are told that God's Word, God's Word completely furnishes us. It gives us the knowledge, it gives us the facts that we need, so that we don't have to wonder. Now, does it sometimes pique our interest? Yes. That's something great about God's Word. Does God's Word give us everything? No, and even the Bible tells us while some things are hard to understand, it's not impossible to know what is right and wrong. Now, if we think about the topic of angels, angels are spoken about and talked about in 34 of the 66 books of the Bible. Half of the Bible, over half of the Bible, there are mentions of angels and what they did. This morning in 2 Kings, we talked about Gideon. Gideon had an angel that started speaking to him first, but then the Lord started speaking to him. And so the angels during this time, and especially Old Testament days, had a special place in history I'm not going to say with history, but they had a special place that God used them. New Testament, not as much, but we see the angels being used in the New Testament. It is a biblical subject, and because it is a biblical subject, we need to teach it to the best of our ability. Now, number 2, another fable or a false theory that some people have is angels are not a New Testament subject. Well, I just mentioned that angels are talked about and used in the New Testament. And when I saw this, I believe what the people were thinking about is that they're not used like they were in the Old Testament. And that's an assumption on my part what people are meaning when they said angels is not a New Testament subject. Now, however, after you get past the Gospels, I don't recall any mention of angels past the Gospels in the New Testament. I may be wrong in that, but I just don't recall of anything. If you could recall any place in Scripture past the Gospels, let me know, because I don't want to be, I just made myself a fibber. Hebrews chapter 1, what I told you to read. There are a few occasions, but as far as angels being utilized, I think we see them most in the Gospels. But we will be going to Hebrews 1 in just a minute. But these people will cite passages such as Colossians chapter 2 and verse 14 to try to justify their theory. Now, this text is stating about the old law, the law of God, the law of Moses, rather, and what happened to it when Jesus was on the cross. Having wiped out the handwriting of requirements that is against us, which was contrary to us, and He has taken it out of the way, and having nailed it to the cross. I don't see how the people who hold the theory that angels is not a New Testament subject believe that Colossians chapter 2 and verse 14 teaches that, because this verse clearly teaches that the old law was nailed on the cross with Christ. Now, again, 34 of the 66 books of the Bible, angels are spoken about. Angels are in the Old Testament, but they're also in the New Testament. And we also understand that the Bible is inspired. And God has given us the Bible and the subject matter found in the Bible. So that's what makes angels a New Testament subject, as well as one that we should preach and teach of. In 2 Peter chapter 1, verses 20 through 21, Peter writes about Jesus. He indeed was foreordained before the foundation of the world, but was manifest in these last times for you, who through Him believed in God, who raised Him from the dead and gave Him glory, so that your faith and hope are in God. That's the reason why we have Scripture. That's the reason why we are told what we are told, is so that we can have faith and hope in God. And we don't have to guess. Now, here we go with Hebrews chapter 1. Hebrews chapter 1. I've oftentimes been told by preachers that are a lot smarter than I am that Hebrews is a very tough book of the Bible to teach and to break down. But if we break down verses 4 through 14, we see that Jesus is being put above the angels. There's nothing above Jesus. He's equal with God. Even though we say God the Father, God the Son, I do believe that Jesus is on the same line as God is. But angels are below Him. Now, let's read verse 14. And this is a very tough passage to understand. Are they not all ministering spirits, sent forth to minister for those who will inherit salvation? This passage is definitely talking about angels. And so I was handed this question by Marilyn. Must we be obedient to God in order to receive help from angels? Well, I guess I need to ask her what she means by help from angels. And And I think I know what she means, and if so, we'll be discussing that next week when we're discussing guardian angels. Now, I'm going to give you what a professor, and his name was Robert Mulligan. He was the president of college at the Bible at Kentucky University. And this is what he stated: that under Christ it is now the business of angels, from the highest to the lowest, to aid in the work of redeeming man and in carrying out their work to its final point. And that means the point when something is final. I agree with that. However, what the text does not tell us, what the Bible does not teach us, is how this is done for sure. We have no way of knowing how man or how angels minister to those that are inheriting salvation. Some hold the view that it's through the Word. I'm not sure I agree with that. But it is clear, based on verse 14, that ministering spirits are sent forth to minister for those who will inherit salvation. The word, this inherit salvation, is the idea of the ultimate prize, and that being heaven. So, do they minister to us? Based on this, yes. How? I don't know. There's just some things, like I told you, we started this last week, that we're not going to know, but we can take comfort in what we are told. Now, some have taken this passage and tried to prove that guardian angels are there. Again, we will look at that next week, because I believe that the Bible teaches, without a doubt, that angels assist God through His providence. So I'm just going to give you that to kind of whet your appetite, so that you'll come next week and that you'll see what I'm talking about. I don't want to open my hand too much on this. But again, there's just some things that we just don't know everything. But we can just believe this. Do you not believe what the Bible says? I do. Do you believe that there are ministering spirits sent forth to minister those who will inherit salvation or inherit heaven? Yes, I do. But why? Because the Bible tells me. How? I don't know. I'm not going to make something up, because then I'll be adding to God's Word. Alright? There's another old wise tale that angels are women. The myth is that angels are women or little children, and they're flying around, and they're all over the place, and they're mystical, and they're a vision, and it's all a myth, folks. Artists have drawn paintings and different things of angels that are women and angels that are children. It's a myth. Okay? We do not know. But what do we know? The Bible speaks specifically as men of two angels, in fact, as men, and that's Gabriel and Michael. We talked about that last week. When angels appear, they appeared as men. All right, let's go over to Genesis chapter 18. Now, in Genesis chapter 18, we are told Abraham is coming to be talked to, and it's dealing with Sodom and the destruction of Sodom. But look at verse 1. The Lord appeared to him, and who is him? Well, this is Abraham. By the trees, as he was sitting in the tent door in the heat of the day, and he lifted up his eyes and he looked, and behold, three men were standing by him. And when he saw them, he ran from the tent of the door to meet them, and he bowed himself to him. And he said, My Lord. And in the New King James, that word Lord is capitalized, so it signifies that somehow Abraham recognized these men as being something special, deity, angels. All right? If I now have found favor in your sight, do not pass on by your servant. And so Abraham goes in, he makes some food for them. Verse 6, he hurried to the tent. He told Sarah, his wife, make ready 3 measures of fine meal needed, make cakes. Abraham ran to the herd. He took a tender good calf, gave it to the young man, and he hastened to prepare it. He took butter and milk and the calf that he had prepared and set it before them, the 3 men. And he stood by them under the tree as they ate. And they said to him, where is Sarah, your wife? And so he said, here in the tent. And then here's where they tell Abraham that Sarah is going to conceive. And Sarah laughed within herself, and because she's old. And I love the answer that they realized what she did. The Lord said, now look at it. The Lord said to Abraham, why is Sarah laughing, saying, I shall barely bear a child since I am old? He said, is anything too hard for the Lord? Well, of course not. But it was a kind of a wake-up call for Abraham to realize, and I think he already knew that these 3 men were angels. I really think they were, but they appeared as men. Verse 16, the men rose from there and looked toward Sodom, and Abraham went with them to send them on the way. And the Lord said, shall I hide from Abraham what I am doing? I have that highlighted or underlined. Since Abraham shall surely become a great and mighty nation, and all the nations on the earth shall be blessed for him. For I have known him in order that he may command his children and his household after him, that they keep the way of the Lord to do righteousness and justice, and that the Lord may bring Abraham to what he has spoken. And the Lord said, because the outcry of Sodom and Gomorrah is great, and because their sin is very grave, I will go down now and see whether they have done altogether according to me, according to the outcry against it has come to me. And if not, I will know. Okay, then here's where Abraham starts to ask God to spare the city of so many down. And God said, yeah. Well, go to chapter 19 now. We see that the 2 angels came to Sodom in the evening, and Lot was sitting at the gate of Sodom. And when Lot saw them, he rose to meet them, and he bowed himself to him. Once again, we can see that somehow, just like Abraham, Lot understood that these men were from God. Verse 2, and he said, here now, my lords, please turn in to your servant's house and spend the night, and wash your feet, that you may rise up early and go your way. And they said, no, but we will spend the night in the open square. But he insisted strongly, or Lot did. So they turned into him and entered his house. Then he made them a feast and baked unleavened bread, and they ate. Now before they lay down, the men of the city, the men of Sodom, both young and old, all the people from every quarter surrounded the house. And they called to Lot and said unto him, where are the men? All right, verse 1, we see 2 angels. Now the people of the city are saying, where are the men? Referring to these 2 angels who came to you tonight. Bring them out that we may be able to know them carnally. In other words, not in a good way. And I think we understand what these men were wanting. So Lot went out to them through the doorway, shut the door behind, and said, please, my brethren, do not do so wickedly. See, now I have 2 daughters who have not known a man. Please let me bring them out to you, and you may do to them as you wish. Wow. Here is Lot ready to give his daughters that never knew a man, to these men that wanted to know carnally these 2 angels. And And they said, the people said, stand back. This one came in and stay here, and he keeps acting as a judge. Now we will deal worse with you than with him. So they pressed hard against the man, Lot, and came near to break down the door. But the men, these angels, reached out their hands and pulled Lot into the house with them and shut the door. And they struck the men who were at the doorway of the house with blindness, both small and great, so that they became weary trying to find the door. There is a lot more of this account that we could preach on and we could teach on, but the point I was making is these angels came to Lot, and they came to Lot as men. Not as women, but as men. Look at Mark chapter 16. In Mark chapter 16, we have the tomb of Jesus being talked about, and we see that the Sabbath was passed, verse 1. Mary Magdalene, the mother of James, and Salome brought spices that they may come and anoint Jesus, the body of Jesus. Verse 2, very early in the morning on the first day of the week, they came to the tomb when the sun had risen, and they said among themselves, who will roll away the stone from the door of the tomb for us? But when they looked up, they saw the stone had been rolled away, for it was very large. And entering the tomb, they saw a young man, clothed in white robe, sitting on the right side, and they were alarmed. But he said to them, do not be alarmed. You seek Jesus of Nazareth, who was crucified. He is risen. He is not here. See the place where they laid him, but go tell his disciples and Peter that he is going before you in Galilee, and there you will see him. And he said to you, so they went out quickly and fled the tomb, for they trembled and were amazed, and they said nothing to anyone, for they were afraid. Who appeared unto Mary and the other one with her? An angel that was in the appearance of a man. Alright? But there's something else about angels. The Bible tells us that angels are sexless. In other words, they're neither male nor female. How do we know? Well, this is something that Jesus said. Go over to Matthew chapter 22. Matthew chapter 22. I'm starting to get fast again because my time is... Let's look at verse 29, beginning. Now, the Sadducees are questioning Jesus about the resurrection. And they're trying to trick him and saying that when there is the resurrection and the woman of a man has remarried several times because her husband has passed away, and every time she married her, he would die. Their question was, whose wife will she be when they are resurrected? And Jesus answered and said unto them, you are mistaken, not knowing the Scriptures nor the power of God. For in the resurrection they neither marry nor given in marriage, but are like angels of God in heaven. But concerning the resurrection of the dead, have you not read what was spoken by God, saying, I am the God of Abraham, the God of Jacob, the God of Isaac, the God of Jacob. God is not the God of the dead, but of the living. And when the multitudes heard this, they were astonished at his teaching. The teaching of Jesus was, there is no marriage in the resurrection. There's no marriage in heaven. There's no sex as far as the body in heaven. We will appear as what Jesus said? As angels. The same body that God has given the angels, that somehow will be the idea of the body that man will have. We don't know what that body looks like. As a matter of fact, the Bible says that when we rise in the air to meet Jesus when he comes back, we will be changed, we'll be transformed to a body and look like Jesus. Okay? So whatever that body looks like, we just don't know. All right, now there are some that hold to the belief that angels can have sexual relations with man. And they use Genesis chapter 6, verses 1 through 8 as a proof text. My son and I talked about this when they were in town for Christmas. And after studying Matthew chapter 22 and verses 29 through 32, I've come to the conclusion that there's just something that we cannot know about this topic in verses 1 through 8. But we can know that Jesus said there's no giving in marriage, so angels could not have any type of relations. Look at this. It came to pass, verse 1, when men began to multiply on the face of the earth, and daughters were born to them, that the sons of God, and that phrase right there usually always refers to angels. Okay? So the sons of God saw that the daughters of men, and they were beautiful, and they took wives for themselves, of whom they chose. And the Lord said, My spirit shall not strive with man forever, for he is indeed flesh, and his days shall be 120 years. And there were giants on the earth, and in those days, so also afterward, when the sons of God came in to the daughters of men, they bore children of them. There's this thought. Now, whatever the text in verse 2, the sons of God is, I don't know. Because we know through the study of what Jesus said that angels cannot have sexual relations. So I'm not sure, because the text is not clear when it talks about the sons of God. But there are those that believe that the sons of God were angels, and these angels had sexual relations, and from these sexual relations came giants. There's really nothing to back that up. But there's not a lot that I can say to disprove it either. This is something that I'm not going to split hairs over. If that's what you want to believe, that's fine. It doesn't have anything to do with matters of heaven, eternity. And so I don't believe that's what it's talking about because of what Jesus said in Matthew chapter 22. You may have a different opinion. Now, all I can do is that I told you when we started this that I would give you the text and you can base your own opinion on things. Another false theory is that angels play harps. They just fly around and they just play harps, and it just so. Again, this is a reaction to artist rendition of angels. And I'd like to know, when they do a picture or paint a picture of angels, what are they using as reference? As a matter of fact, when they do it of Jesus, what are they using as reference? They've never seen Jesus. They've never seen the apostles. But yet man somehow thinks, oh, there's a picture of Jesus. Well, where did that come from? Oh, there's a picture of the angels. Where did that come from? There's nothing that really gives us a description of an angel in Scripture that a person could draw a picture of. Now, there is no mention in verses to where angels were flying around and playing an instrument. Yet, angels can sing. Without a doubt, we have the Bible that tells us that. Go over to the book of Job. Or as the young man said, the book of Job. Bless you. There we go. There you are. You're just hiding, that's all. Let's go to Job 38. Alright, now you remember the whole book of Job is dealing with how Satan has tormented Job and taken everything he has, and he's got 3 friends that they come in and they try to to make him feel better, but they also try to convince him that he's done something bad. Well, let's look at verse 7. When the morning stars sang together, and all the sons of God shouted for joy. Who is the sons of God? Angels. The morning stars, angels, sang together. Okay, so we see that that the angels are able to sing. Verse 8, or who shut the sea with the doors when it burst forth in the issue of the womb? When I made the clouds its garment, and the thick darkness its swaddling band. When I fixed my limit for it and set bars on the doors. When I said, this far from you may come, but no further, and here your proud waves must stop. God is saying to Job, he's answering Job, who did all these things? Who allowed this? Who created? I did, God said. So we see that even God is telling Job that the angels do sing. Now, just for a show of hands, and since my camera's pointing at me and it's not pointing at you, how many of you believe that when the angels appeared to the shepherds, they sang? Raise your hand. Don't be shy. Don't be shy. All right. Let's go over to Luke chapter 2. Because we're going to see that we've been so used to letting man tell us things that we have started to believe it. Luke chapter 2. This is at the birth of Jesus. Let's begin reading at verse 13. Well, we'll read at start 8. Now there were in the same country shepherds, living out in the fields, keeping watch over their flock. And behold, an angel of the Lord stood before them, and the glory of the Lord shone around them, and they were greatly afraid. Then the angel said to them, do not be afraid, for behold, I bring you good tidings of great joy, which will be to all people. For there is born to you this day in the city of David a Savior, who is Christ the Lord. And this will be a sign to you, and you will find a babe wrapped in swaddling clothes, lying in the manger. What happened? The shepherds are out in the field. They're living in the field, we're told, keeping watch over their flock. And then behold, a what? Angel, singular, appeared unto them. And they give these shepherds the good news. Now go to verse 13. And suddenly there was with the angel a multitude of heavenly hosts praising God. Here's the key word, saying. They were not singing. They were praising God, and they said. Now, praising God here has the Greek meaning of giving God the glory, but it has nothing to do with singing. But yet man wants you to believe that the angels were singing that day. Glory to God in the highest, and on earth peace and goodwill. So it was when the angel had gone away from them into heaven that the shepherds said to one another, let us now go to Bethlehem and see this great thing. So I've always thought that the angels sang. That the host of angels were revealed to the shepherds, and they were singing and praising God, but that was not what happened. They were giving God praise, but they weren't doing it through song. And they said something. They didn't sing it. So again, that's what the Bible says. If you want to believe it another way, you can. But the angels also have joy. And we're told in Luke chapter 15, verse 7, that they're joyful. When I was studying this, I have misquoted this text several times, because I said there's more rejoicing in heaven over one sinner that has repented than more than that. All right, I'm going to read to you the ESV of Luke chapter 15, verse 7. Just so, I tell you, there will be more joy in heaven over one sinner who repents than the 99 righteous persons who need no repentance. The New King James Version. I say to you that likewise there will be more joy in heaven over one sinner who repents than the 99. What is the meaning of joy? Cheerfulness, delight. But there's no mention of singing, just like it was in Luke chapter 2. How this is done, again, that's something that we just don't know. We just have to accept it for what it says. Angels have wings and they fly. They fly around everywhere. Well, angels, there's only one passage really that speaks about winged angels, and that's in Exodus chapter 25 and verse 19 through 21, and that's in the making of the ark. As God He gave the instructions of making the ark. He says, you shall make a mercy seat of pure gold. 2.5 cubits shall be in its length, and 1.5 cubits its width. And you shall make 2 cherubim of gold, and a hammered work you shall make of them at 2 ends of the mercy seat. Make 1 cherub at one end, and the other cherub at the other end. You shall make the cherub at least 2 ends of it in one piece with the mercy seat. And the cherubim shall stretch out their wings above, covering the mercy seat with their wings, and they shall face one another. The bases of the cherubim shall be toward the mercy seat. You shall put the mercy seat on top of the ark, and in the ark you shall put the testimony that I shall give you. This is an instruction of how to build the ark and the mercy seat. It is a symbol. But this is the only place that I found that it spoke about angels having wings. Man, I got so much more. We're going to stop here. And I will pick up next Sunday evening with the rest here and get into the guardian angel theory next Sunday evening. I just got so much material. I tell you, you start studying this, and it's fascinating, and it just pulls you in deeper and deeper, and my notes get longer and longer and more, and then I look at my time, and I'm trying to go faster and faster, but I don't want to not do justice to it. Angels are a biblical subject. And as we said a while ago in the book of Luke, the angels give joy whenever a sinner repents. And I don't know what that joy is like, but they show emotion whenever I repent of sin. They're on our side. Angels are for us. They're not against us. They're on our side. And God created them for a purpose, His mission. And the thing about it is that Christ died that we could have the hope of eternal life. Christ gave us His word. All that God wants us to do is follow Him. And it may be there's someone tonight that needs to respond to the invitation. I don't know. If you do, or if you just need to have prayers, if you need to respond by saying, I've sinned, I need to be restored to the church, or if you even have a question about your salvation, whether or not your baptism is legit, it's always safe to be safe. I remember what Brother Jess said right shortly after I got here, when he decided that he wanted to be rebaptized. He just wanted to make sure. And it was a joy to be able to do that to him, because it's always safe to be safe. If you need to respond to the invitation, don't delay, but do it now. Just together we stand.